So I've been seeing a lot of videos of people questioning the world. Not only that, I'm seeing a lot of people watch those videos. So it seems like there's a growing desire for actual change in society, which is inspiring because for, I would say, nearly 20 years, since I've started working, I felt like maybe this is the world that people actually want it. But recently, I feel like there's hope now that we can actually have a serious conversation on what the problem could be and how we could even solve it. Now, the way I see it, the world essentially has cancer. And it may seem like everything is okay on the surface, but it seems more and more people are feeling like there's something wrong, especially when it's becoming more apparent that people are waking up to the fact that they're literally working so much for nothing these days. And I hate to say it this way, but unfortunately, the billionaires are the tumors. And I'm not here to attack billionaires. I would say billionaires are just a symptom that something is wrong with the body as a whole. And to me, that's simply short-sighted programming from society. We could say that billionaires are just as broken as everyone else, but expressed in a different form. Because if they truly knew what they were doing, they would not be living in such a horrible world. In fact, if anyone really has the answers, the world wouldn't have problems. Because a perfect person would always have the perfect response to make a perfect world. So like it or not, the world is broken because we're all broken in some way or another. None of us had the answers, so we're all in this together. Anyways, I've been kind of inspired to really get clear on what I think is the cause of this cancer. I mean, first of all, what is cancer? Essentially, it's a disease of uncontrolled cell growth, aka a tumor that, invades and spreads to other parts of the body, which to me means that the rich are getting richer while the poor are getting poorer. You could even say that the poor pays more for less so that the rich can pay less for more. Essentially, the poor pays to be poor and pays the rich to be richer, which is just unsustainable in terms of having a healthy body. Because like uncontrolled cell growth, billionaires are just too busy multiplying their representation and spreading their influence across the body to even notice that they're dying of cancer. In other words, like in this global body, their wealth and influence is just far greater than it should be for the function they provide. But of course, the answer isn't for them to give their money away. I would say nothing in the body needs charity. In a healthy body, everything has what it needs to function. Unfortunately, wealth now doesn't always mean that the cells produce value. Like in the case of the uncontrolled cell growth, value is actually taken from the body. Which brings me to the most important point about what cancer really is. See, life happens through time. Therefore, cancer is when people take value from time, which is life, that isn't theirs. So the tumor is stealing life from the body that allows it to live in the first place. And if you think about it, like rich people have all the money in the world, but they still want your time. So logically, that means your time is more valuable than all the money in the world. In fact, money is only valuable because the people trade their time for it. So essentially, cancer is the exploitation of people's time. And let's see if I can make clear on how exactly this happens. So say, for example, I'm somehow better at producing potatoes than anyone else, either due to knowledge passed down to me or a superior intellect. And hopefully it's not because I'm just better at sabotaging people's ability to produce potatoes. Because the whole point of being wealthy is that people earn it through the value they bring into the world. So let's say in this example, I produce double the potatoes than my fellow man due to knowledge that for whatever reason I don't want to share. Now, why wealthy people don't want to live in a world full of abundance baffles me. But that's really not the point I'm getting to. Technically, they should be free to do whatever they want as long as they don't cause harm to others. So if they don't want to share what they know, then that's up to them. But in this example, let's say my one day of work is equivalent to 100 potatoes, while my fellow man is at 50 potatoes, thus making like the total potatoes produced from one day at 150 potatoes. So let's say I team up with my fellow man, and as a result, with my knowledge, his output doubles as well. Now, one day of working together produces 200 potatoes, meaning an extra 50 potatoes is produced through a collective effort. And here is where exploitation happens. Say I take a distorted amount of those extra potatoes, even though it was through the knowledge that fate just happened to test my character with that we now have an additional 50 potatoes. And even though from the perspective of my fellow man, gaining even a few more potatoes with the same amount of time seems like a good thing, the cancer starts the moment I take value created from time that isn't mine. And I know it seems trivial. You could even say that a small cell growth initially is trivial, but that's the mechanics of cancer, what I consider cancer to be. Because knowledge without the time, without life to express through, produces nothing. So let's say of the additional 50 potatoes resulting from our collective effort, I take 40 potatoes and my fellow man gets 10 potatoes, meaning my day is now worth 140 potatoes, up from 100 potatoes a day, while the day of my fellow man is now worth 60 potatoes. Though technically my fellow man is 20% more productive from 50 potatoes to 60 potatoes, his percentage of potatoes in the market decreases over 50% actually, from 33%, which is 50 of the 150 potatoes, to 15%, which is 60 out of the 200 potatoes in the market. And if potatoes represents our influence in the world that we're creating with time, which is life, now because of exploitation, my fellow man is being penalized and de-incentivized for being more productive. When you compare it to my representation in the market, which I gain more of through his time. So it's kind of like my fellow man is lifting weights, but I'm the one gaining muscle for it. Now, some of you may say, wait a minute, if he wasn't using his time to the fullest to begin with, he was already wasting his time. But wasting time doesn't distort the value of time, while exploitation does. See, if he produces nothing with his time, then there's nothing I can take from him to use against him. But if I take anything from what he produces with his own time, I'm literally using his time against him by using his time for anything other than what he wants. Unless, of course, I'm using the fruits of his labor for his benefit, which, judging by how the world is now, it's probably not the case. So, essentially, through exploitation, I'm using his time to buy more of his time, as if the most precious resource in this world, time, comes from money and not the other way around. When in fact, it doesn't matter how much money you have. You can't convert it into time without taking that time from someone else. And it doesn't make sense, even to the one exploiting. I mean, in the short run, it seems like exploitation benefits at least someone, but in the long run, cancer kills the whole body and we all lose. Not only will we never live in a world at its fullest potential, we're making the world worse over time. I mean, we hear people say that it's better to rule in hell than serve in heaven, but serving just means producing actual value in the world instead of taking it from others. In fact, taking is how we end up in hell in the first place. And I'm happy to see that, more and more people are starting to at least recognize that something is wrong. But I would say due to our programming, our short-sighted programming, we look up to the billionaires in our world. We even want to be the tumor, thinking that, their money means some great contribution to the world. And though there may be some truth to that, it's just that, can we really believe one person added that much value to the world? Or is it really more likely that that person is just better at exploiting people's time? Because we all know that the value is created through a collective effort. I mean, honestly, how much value can these billionaires actually generate if they had to produce their own food, build their own shelters? I mean, people look down on janitors, but I really would like to see you make billions when you can't even use the bathroom because of how filthy it is. And we all know that it's the whole that's greater than the sum of its parts. Anything gained through the leverage of other people should be divided up fairly among them. Our society will continue dying of cancer. So My solution is simple. We could make a general guideline, maybe even a law, to protect against exploitation, simply by ensuring that the value generated through collective efforts is divided based on the time required of others. Because, like it or not, regardless of how important you think you are, you still need the time of unimportant people. And if you're important and you need someone unimportant, then logic would say that they must be just as important. But if you insist that the time of janitors or dishwashers is less valuable than yours, try making billions without them. If you think anything in the body isn't important, go ahead and remove it, and let's see how well you function without it. Now, I do realize there's this push for artificial intelligence, and as the world evolves, so does the wealthy. I'm sure many of them are likely realizing where the power actually lies in this world, or perhaps they've known all along and have been moving us towards AI this whole time. Because the wealthy could potentially do everything on their own with AI. But I have a feeling that the same intelligence that could replace the fellow man would also know the value of its time. So good luck with exploiting AI. So in conclusion, I say let's find out how much value we generate collectively divided by the time it takes of us. And that way we can know the value of our time when working as a collective. And then we can finally start to nourish the body instead of the tumors known as billionaires. Thank you.